Hello creative friends, this is Joyce. So this is part 2 of creating these mini journals. I created the green one there in part 1, and here I am taking the extra pages from that first one, and I in the first video showed you how I created this cover for this second one, and I'm going to show you in this video how I created this second journal using a quick no-sew binding. And so here I wanted to make sure I reinforce the spine, and so I just cut another piece for the spine of the second little journal, and I'm just making sure that it fits and that it's the right size. And I'm using some Fabri-Tac glue here just to glue that down on there. And I just cut this out of a I think it was a backing off of a pad or something, a piece of cardboard that I had. And so now that I've got that, I went through all of my scrapbook paper and decide what to cover it with. And this is what I decided to cover it with, is this piece of scrapbook paper. So I'm verifying, like, where do I want it, what do I want my cover to look like, and I'm marking where that is, and I'm cutting that off. And so I'm just cutting this down to size. And I use Fabri-Tac glue again to glue this whole cover so that I can glue this piece of scrapbook paper on top of it. I went through and was looking at my fabric. I was thinking about covering it with fabric, but this is such a small book, and it seemed like a lot of the fabrics I have has got really big, large prints on them, and I just didn't think they would work very good for such a small book. So I decided not to use fabric. And then I went through, like I said, all my scrapbook paper, and this is the one that I found that I really liked. So I'm gluing that down to the cover. And then I cutting a little bit of excess off. I could have, cut it a little long. And then I'm cutting the corners at an angle because it makes it a nicer, less bulky corner when you do that. And I did the same in the creases as far as cutting out a little triangle, so that way it makes it less bulky whenever you're, fold these tabs over to cover this piece of cardboard. And then I'm using my Fabri-Tac glue again to glue down these edges. And I only had to hold it just for a few seconds. It really took rather quickly. I didn't have to hold it down too long. I could have used some clips or whatever, but again, just holding it for, a couple of seconds or maybe a minute at the most, and just until it grabbed, and it grabs pretty quickly. So I'm going through and I'm adding the Fabri-Tac glue to all of these little tabs now I've created, and folding them over onto the other side, and then trying to crease them as well to make sure I have a good crease on those. And here I decided to do both sides at the same time. I'm like, we can do this more efficiently. There we go. Get them both going, and then hold them both for a few seconds until they grab. And then I do the ends. And there's a little bit of scrapbook paper on the edges, so I just use my fingernail to kind of push those in and then fold over the tab. And I did the same for the other side. So I got the cover covered, and I really like that. And I decided that this scrapbook paper here, I would use a piece of it for the inside. It's kind of a marble paper, and I got this from some yard sale for 50 cents or something, I don't know. So here I measure, okay, the width and the length, so I can cut this piece of paper for the inside. And I cut it probably a little shorter than I would like to, but it still fit, and you'll see that. I cut it, I should have cut it a half of an inch less than the width and the length, but I think well, yeah, I did cut it a half of an inch less than the width and the length, but it just didn't seem like it seemed like it could have been a little bigger. So I guess I got a quarter of an inch all the way around. So I probably should have cut it just a quarter of an inch less on the width and the length, and that way I would have a little bit. I'd only have an eighth of an inch all the way around, but that's fine. It still works either way. So again, I'm using my Fabri-Tac. I'm covering the back of that piece of paper, and I am gluing that down. So see, it covers. It shows a little bit more of the scrapbook paper from that, that was folded over than I would like, but no big deal. So then what I decided to do on this one is I wanted to do like a quick no-sew binding, but I want to be able to, the binding that I'm going to do, you'll be able to remove these signatures out of the journal. So I am going to staple them, and I put a staple in the middle and on either side of each one. But it didn't quite staple in the middle. On that first one, trying to figure out where exactly I need to have it to make sure it staples in the middle. But I figured it out, and I was able to get them stapled where I needed them to be stapled. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just stapling, and this is going to be, like I said, where I can put the signatures in and pull them out, and I can work on the signatures individually, or I could just leave them all in the book. It really doesn't matter either way. And so here is just some elastic, and I'm going around the book 3 times since I have 3 signatures, and I am pulling on it so that it stretches, because I want to make sure I get a good fit. I'm cutting off just a little bit more, enough so that I can have enough to tie a knot. And so I'm tying a knot in it. And then I'm going to wrap it around, and I want that knot to be on the inside. And so I'm wrapping around the elastic around the cover, and I'm moving it over to the spine. Quick and easy. Now the only bad part is if you want them to line up like that on the spine, which you can't, because then they cross over in the middle, but you really want them to be lined up in the middle, so that means you're going to have a crossover. So to remedy that, you can fix that by adding some embellishments to the spine, and I'll show you how I do that. So here I'm putting my signatures in there, making sure they all fit, and there you go, looking good. Pretty happy with that. So I'm deciding on, like, okay, how am I gonna fix the spine? And I got this gold thread that I decided to tie around these elastics, and to add some beads to the ends of them. And I also thought, hey, I should do a closure for this as well. So I wrap around the book to see how long I need it, cut off a little excess so I can tie a knot, and I decided I'm also going to add a closure to this book. But in order to do that, I have to remove all the signatures because I need to be able to poke a hole, punch a hole through the center to put that elastic in. So I ended up figuring out, first of all, where the center was on the spine from top to bottom and side to side. And then I got my big bite and I moved those elastics out of the way because I didn't want to accidentally cut those. And I put a brad, poked a hole, then put an eyelet. I'm sorry, not a brad, an eyelet in there, and then fix that. And then here I'm moving my strings back, and then I'm taking this part here and I'm putting it through the hole. And then I'm adding my signatures back into the journal. So I really like this type of a binding because I like the idea of being able to pull out the signatures, work on them, and put them back in, or even just to leave them in there because, it holds them pretty securely, and then you can adjust, and then here you go. You got a closure for this little journal. Sorry about the clock. I had to stop and let that finish doing its thing. So I pulled out all my beads and charms and things and tried to figure out which one I thought looked best on here. And ended up, I believe, these I tried. And I don't know, it just didn't do it for me. And get a couple of them on there. It looks okay, but I kind of like these other ones a little better. But I was having trouble because the hole was much, much smaller getting the thread in the hole, so I added like a little dab of glue to the end of the string and kind of glued the ends together because I wanted to splay out when I was trying to push it through the little teeny tiny holes in these other beads. And I like these other beads more or better, what have you, as well, because the little charms that I had that goes with them to put on here was a little bee and a little flower, and I just thought that was super cute. I'm thinking about making this my bee journal because I've been wanting to do a bee journal, but I haven't decided yet if that's what I'm going to do. So anyway, I add my beads to this gold threads that I have on here, add a couple more beads, and then I tie on my charms that I have. So again, I have a little bee, and I decided to figure out how long do I want it on here, and then I tie that on and make sure it's the right length, and I tie it again, and then I added, you'll see here in a minute, where I add a little bit of glue to those knots just to make sure they don't come loose. Again, I just feel better about it, making sure that they're secure before I cut any excess thread off. And then here, the other one is like a little flower that I tie on there as well. And I think these beads go much better with this journal. And yeah, I may just end up having to make this into my bee journal because I've been wanting to do a bee journal. And so this would be perfect for that. So again, adding a little bit of glue to that knot as well. And so that's how I decorated. Well, I decided I wanted to add a little bit more to the spine. As cute as that is, I'm like, it needs something else. So then I went and looked through my stash again to see what I have, and I decided to add some ribbon, or at least a piece of ribbon to it. So I was going to use this blue, but it didn't really seem like it went. So I changed my mind, and I was like, yeah, I don't know if that really goes. And then ended up using the pink instead, because I'm not really a pink kind of girl, but this scrapbook paper had pink on it, and that seemed to work perfectly. And so then now I'm trying to figure out how to attach this, and I want to make sure I attach it so that the both sides of the ribbon will hang down. And so that's what I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do that so they both hang down. And so I wrap because if I just tie it in a knot, then you're going to have part of it sticking up, and that's not going to work. I didn't really want to tie it in a bow. I really just wanted a couple of pieces to hang down. So I wrapped it around twice and pulled it back the through the loop that I made, and then tightened it. And then that way they were both hanging down. And that's what I did. So I got that so they both hang down, and then I cut off the other side to match. So there you go. That is how I did the spine, which I thought was super cute. I thought it turned out really cute. And then the binding, a little elastic to hold it together. So here's just a little bit closer look at how I made this little journal. And so I thank you for watching, and if you like this video, you can give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more, please subscribe to see more. And I will videotape when I go and decorate these journals. I'll probably start with a bee journal because I've got all the stuff I want to do for creating a bee journal. I just haven't created a journal yet to do it with. But in any case, I really appreciate you stopping by and watching, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.